Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, this will be taking us to around the 24th of July, so going well on into the second half of the month. It looks as though we're going to be seeing a pretty changeable period coming up next week. There's a lot of uncertainty about next week's weather. I did a video yesterday, and I think it's Friday, where I said that the models are really very uncertain at the moment. There's a lot of changeability going on within the model suites, and just last night, for instance, a lot of the models were sort of hinting at the chance of quite a warm and dry week next week, but they've sort of gone away from that this morning and gone towards a more unsettled week and a cooler week as well next week. I think the south will generally keep a lot of dry weather, as we've had through much of this summer, and the north will get the most unsettled conditions. That's how I think things will be playing out. And at times it will be very warm, potentially, I think, down in the south next week. Now, before we get on with that, just to say about the ads, this links to articles on the pages that go have browse widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, click through and you'll be able to read the article. Thanks very much for doing that. For your ad, post page, they open up in the content. When you watch them, they'll close back up again. It's all helping to pay for the website. So thanks very much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. Just say about the thunderstorm risk at the end of the week. This video won't be touching on that because we're starting on Saturday, which is after the time frame of the risk of fairly warm weather and thunderstorms on Thursday and into Friday. If you're interested in what may be going on with the storms, come back to Stormwatch later on this afternoon, probably around 6 o'clock this evening, and we'll have a good look at what may be ahead as we move through into Thursday and Friday, and potentially have the risk of more thunderstorms in some parts of the country. Right, let's get on with the 8 to 10 day video then. We're going to start off with 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts. We've got the ECMWF on the left and the GFS is over on the right of the screen as you're looking at it. 80,000 feet is area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, and red, orange extrapolates to high pressure. So what we see on both sides, we've got a ridge of high pressure down to the south, and we've got a trough of low pressure up to the north. They're both in agreement on this, so it implies that the south gets the driest weather and the north gets the most unsettled weather. Of course, it won't be quite that straightforward because the jet stream is more or less running through the country, so at times even southern parts will get some rain, but the most unsettled conditions from this should be in the north and the west, with the driest conditions in the south. Notice that we've got this very deep trough up to the northeast of the country, around western parts of Russia and northeastern Europe. We're very close to having a really poor summer with this. If this was just a few hundred miles further westwards, across western parts of Europe, we'd be stuck under that trough. It'd be really cool and unsettled. So it's just going to show it doesn't take that many changes really to go from a fairly warm and dry summer pattern, which is what we've had so far, to a much more cooler and unsettled summer pattern. So having a look at the upper air temperatures, these are the 850 upper air temperatures from the GFS model, with precipitation on the bottom of the graph. We can see that temperature's going to be up and down really over the next couple of weeks in terms of the GFS ensemble. So the red line here is the 30-year temperature average. This is the warm spell that's coming up at the end of the week that could coincide with risk of some thunderstorms. So we're looking at that on Stormwatch this evening. After that, we go cooler as we go through into the weekend and the start of next week. Getting a little cooler spell, and then it looks as though we're going to go warmer, certainly in the south anyway, for a time through the course of next week, before it probably cools off once again as we move through in towards the final week or so of the month. The dates are along the bottom of the graph, so we start off around the 15th, we end up somewhere right at the very end of the month, around the 30th of July. But of course, once you get to that extended end of the graph, it is in the unreliable time frame, so not to be relied upon. Now, associated with this warmer pickup for the end of the week, we have got these precipitation spikes. So not only are the temperatures lifting up at the end of the week, they're also potentially going to provide the energy for some thunder. As I say, come back to Stormwatch tonight for more on that. After that, we go quite dry, certainly in the south anyway, over the weekend and into the start of next week, before the rainfall spikes possibly come back for the end of the month. So overall, a fairly changeable period coming through, although there is quite an extended drier spell in there going from around the 18th there to, let's say, the 23rd or 24th just here. So quite a few days of dry weather down in the south, but it'll be more unsettled, I think, up in the north. These are the temperature anomalies for the coming week. This takes us from the 14th of July through to 22nd. Temperatures in the north are going to be a little bit cooler than average, and in the south a little bit warmer than average. Overall, quite a coolish period coming through, but this is a change on last night's run, so it could turn out to be a bit warmer than this is suggesting. But the warmest weather anyway will be in the south. The rainfall anomaly, very much as it has been through most of this summer. It's been a pretty grim summer, I have to say, for parts of Scotland. It's not been a great summer at all, and this continues really for the coming week. So above average rainfall for Scotland, below average rainfall for southern parts of England. It's all indicative of the high pressure being in this sort of area. It's in the south mostly dry, the low pressure being up here, and the jet stream going something like that. So it keeps the north of the west with the wettest conditions, but south gets the driest weather. So here's the generic charts, and this is the GFS first of all for Saturday. Then just really sums up what we've been discussing. The low pressures to the north of Scotland, high pressures down to the south of England. So the south gets the driest weather, the north gets the most unsettled weather indeed. As we go through to Sunday, bad situation maintained. The south goes to the high, the north close to the low. This is actually a little bit autumnal, really, for parts of Scotland. The air with this is really quite cold. Following the ice bars back, the air is originating somewhere from around Iceland. That's really quite cool air coming down across Scotland, and it is unsettled close to its low pressure as well. I think it'll be feeling a little bit on the autumnal side for Scotland, but for the south, it's still well and truly summer because we're close to this ridge, and the air with that is relatively warm. As we go into next week, this ridge, if anything, probably takes over a few days through the start of next week, but then these areas of low pressure will come in off the Atlantic and keep it gently unsettled through to the middle part of next week. And then we end up on day 10, and this is with a huge pinch of salt and health warning, but we do end up with high pressure sort of building across the country quite strongly, turning all parts warm and dry, but I'm not sure about that at all. It's a long way off, and the models really are chopping and changing by the time we get through to sort of day 8, 9 and 10. ECWF is very different at that time frame. It's similar to start off with, though, with the ridge coast to the south, the low pressure up to the north, so the south driest over weekend, the north most unsettled. That's maintained into the start of next week. Lots of dry and warm weather down in the south, the north most unsettled. Could be really very wet indeed for Scotland because there's a weather front sort of strung out there, trailing back into the Atlantic. There'll be pulses of rain running along that for Scotland. So yeah, it could be really unsettled and wet for Scotland if that comes off to start off with next week, whereas the south is very summery with warm, dry and settled conditions. As we go through the week, this low pressure comes through the country though, so that turns the winds eventually into a cool north and northwesterly direction. Here it comes, and by day 10, we're properly into a northwesterly there across country with the high pressure pulling quite a long way out into central part of the Atlantic. That's very, very different to what we've just seen from the GFS for the day 10 chart. It's just indicative of how unreliable these models are at the moment for sort of day 7, 8, 9, 10. Very much chopping and changing, lots of intra-model variability within that. The area is very cool there coming down by day 10, Friday the 24th of July. Really cool air across all parts of the country. Finally, the GEM, and here we go for the weekend. The ridge is close to the south, but low pressure is up to the north, so the north will get most south conditions. The ridge will be mainly dry. North-south split as we go through into start of next week. High pressure keeps the south mainly dry and warm. Low pressure keeps the north unsettled. Quite cool, maybe even a little bit autumnal feeling across parts of northern Scotland through to the middle part of next week. And then day 10 ends up very similar to the ECM actually, in that we bring down this cool northwesterly wind across all parts of the country. Maybe not quite as cool as the ECM, but it's a similar type evolution into the second half of next week. But it is quite different from what we was looking at just last night, so I wouldn't be necessarily putting too much credence on that, to be honest. I think we're looking at basically a north-south split, let's say that, through the first half of next week. coolest and most unsettled, and maybe even very slightly autumnal type conditions for the north, particularly for Scotland. For England and Wales, so a lot of dry weather, very warm at times as well. I mean, as we go through to the end of next week, maybe turning a little bit cooler and more unsettled across all parts of the country. Well, that's it for now. Come back later on for Stormwatch to see what's going on with the thunderstorm risk on Thursday and Friday. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.